Welcome aboard the great state of Michigan to the platform of the people. Love to see it. Brand deposit match coming in there. It is up to $500 now, 50% uh, match. So you can get up to $250. You get 10 free BBM5 entries on the good people at Underdog if you're joining up. But without further ado, let's push into that contest itself. BBM week continuing here, week and a half now, and I got not one but two former champs alongside me. I had the pleasure of meeting them both in person this year, and almost as good at dudes as they are best ball players. I would say. I'd venture to say almost. Justin Herzig, Pat Kerrane, how are we doing, my friends?
Doing good. Yeah, it was fun to get a chance to hang out in Vegas. We'll be back this year, so it's always a good time.
And for us, was down in sunny Miami, and I figure if I'm joining a Badge Bros with Roto Run himself, I need my Roto Run. Hater block is on right now, so I'm bringing the props. Let's go.
Those are my volume blockers, because everybody always clowns me that I'm never gonna max anything. I'm maxing BBM this year. I'm gonna wear those stunner shades to block out the haters. I am fully maxing this year, boys.
When I jumped on, I saw Justin in the shades. I was gonna say something, then I was like, they actually look a little too natural. I don't know if this is just what Justin wears around. So
it's sunny down here in Florida, but
it's a good look. It's a great look. I mean, it looks like you go fast as hell in those things. I'm not gonna lie. Gentlemen, how many drafts we got under our belt? Are we waiting for schedules? How are we feeling? Just macro landscape of best ball and BBM specifically right now.
I've only done, I think, 7 BBMs. So I'm kind of just like dripping them in, waiting for the schedule. I guess, and I'm not even really dripping them in. I did like 5, or I think I did 5 the first day, or maybe 4, and then 2 the next day, and then 1 yesterday or something like that. So I kind of stopped, and I did max enter the mini Schnauzer slow. I've been doing some DraftKings drafts that tied me over. But now Underdog has all these other contests out, so I think I'm going to be in those streets for the most part, and try to save most of my BBM tickets until the schedule comes out, because I'm like, what's the difference between now and the 15th?
Fair enough.
Yeah, I did 1 BBM, and I jumped into it right when the contest loaded, and I was like, well, these rankings are not, I mean, the ADP is not nearly as off as it's been in previous years, and the people that are off, people are actually jumping and often taking higher than they actually should, so you're not really even getting too much streaming value. So after that one, I was just like, it's not actually, getting that edge that we've had in previous years. And then, yeah, I'm holding off. I've been pretty heavy in those Enrage 8s on DK. I think that's been it's Timebox. It's going to close. I think it's halfway there. There's not like a big loss to drafting those early. And then, yeah, same with Pat. I'll probably jump in a bit more like that Golden's probably like 25% right now. It's only a single entry, but like these more Timebox contests are where I'll be spending majority of my time in May, June. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. It's interesting that you guys both bring up the Timebox stuff there. Is that a fear that more information is going to be known when the schedule comes, so you'll be at a disadvantage for jumping in like something like, say, the Big Dog that's going to be time-boxed, but it's not going to last the entirety of summer, but it's definitely going to last over the calendar release window?
Yeah, I mean, well, I've tried to enter some Big Dogs fast, and they don't fill, and then I'm worried I'm going to forget that I'm in it, and I exit. I've got the furthest I've gotten is I think 7 left to go. That's as far as I've been.
So maybe we'll have to try one on stream so that we can get a bunch of people to go at once. Maybe that's the new thing. Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely into that. With like BBM, my thinking, like, I just want to have the information, and I don't think I'm getting, like, what's the difference between the ADP environment between now and the 16th? So, and you could make the same case for like the DK Millie as well. I didn't get 150 drafts in for the DK Millie last year, and I was drafting my ass off. So if anytime I feel like up for a DraftKings draft, I'm just putting it into the Millie. I think the Engage 8, which is, that's over half full now. That's probably the smarter move. Like, if you know you're gonna have time to do both, I I would agree with Justin that attacking the time box contest makes more sense. But I'm just trying to get volume in when I'm down to do a DK draft.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to join that 10K fast draft and it wasn't going to fill. Just go a little.
Fast enough, you got to just like call your buddy.
You're just hoping 11 dudes are just sitting in there waiting for
it. 11 dudes in early May just to like, yeah, you know what I can really do right now? Just drop 10K into this draft.
I'm just going to hop in. I'll get some stuff to do later. I'll check back and see if it fills.
I went in my group chat and I was like, hey, Utica, like McLovin, do you guys want to come auto draft this real quick? Like, I think we could have a fun time. Yeah, they didn't respond, but I'm not sure if it's their numbers either. Yeah, like the Rage 8s. I mean, like, yeah, for me, it's like, also, if you're drafting now, like you're a DGen and like, I don't know. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter how many times we say this. And because even though we say it, we still just like drafting. And as Pat said, like, it's more of a volume, but like the competition is going to be so much easier come in July, August, and the people who are in the stream, the people who are watching this stream, the people who are on Twitter, like also the more information that starts coming out in July and August, you guys are the ones who are paying more attention to it. You guys are the ones who are better at adapting that information. You're the ones who are better able to capitalize on that in July, August when the time is there. That's where I think like for these contests that are still going to be open then, that's where I want to be focusing my time. Now, let's say there wasn't this in Rage 8, and let's say there wasn't this, other time box contest, then like, yeah, I'm still probably drafting something because how can we not be drafting? Like we're always drafting. But when I have a choice between these different options, I'm going to choose the time box ones.
Yeah, no, that checks out in general there. There's two things actually I want to hit on there. Is the first one that you said right off the hop there was just how sharp ADPs were at the jump of this contest. Are we to blame for that? Because we are the ones mushing said contest by providing that? Or is it just the news cycle, information cycle of football now? This is the new norm with how many people are playing these games and just in tune with the landscape.
Yeah, so it's Underdog who's to credit or blame. It's just in the past, they didn't really whoever created the rankings in the past was probably just one or two people. I don't know if it was Hayden or Josh or if it was other people on the team, but it was like, hey, here's what we think the ranks are, or the ADP, and this is what we're going to put in. And for that day or two, that's what it was. This year, you could tell they far more shaped it off of the drafts that happened beforehand, and there were a ton more drafts. There was not only the big board, but there were others. And so, like, yeah, we maybe had a little more impact on, we as an industry as the big board rankings, but also like the sites that are actually, hey, using these pre-draft contests. I think you're getting a little more of the fairness there. And yeah, Stark and Learn.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Engage it. No, it's enraging. If you draft one of those, you will see how many times you get sniped by people. Like, it is enraging.
Okay, so it is intentional. You kept saying Enrage 8. I was like, I checked it like 3 times. Like, it's an Enrage 8.
Oh, fun.
That's good.
Matt, someone had noticed, Matt in the chat pointed out there is a rakeback deal on the DraftKings. So if you get 20, I think you have to draft 26 of the $20 ones. So that's another thing I'm trying to do. But anytime I'm basically up for a DK draft, I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's get it in.
Yeah, I've done 4 or 5 of the I don't know, with the Millie one, because that was another one where it was like, okay, there was actually a bit more of an opportunity in the first couple hours because their ADP, they didn't have pre-draft contests. Their ADP was way off. Right. And I mean, like TJ Hawkinson's was like 317 or something. Marshawn Lloyd was in the thousands. Like you had these guys who like for that first couple hours, it was insane. And then their ADP adjusts every like 2 hours. So very quickly, it might even been an hour, but like very quickly that ADP adjusted, but then there was still like a bit of a lag because it was only adjusting to the first, 10, 20 drafts or whatever. So that's where I think there was some heavy value in the Millie early. And then now, if I'm doing it, it's to get that, that little rake back, which I think they're going to keep doing different things like that throughout. But if you miss out in May, then you're going to miss out in May.
Right.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah. It's actually interesting. Little Underdogs ran the rakeback program for the big board there, which was very cool because the first time they had that iteration of best ball rakeback. So it's very cool to see how both these games evolve in terms of like retainment of players, like whether it is through rakeback, whether it is like that, or if we go the other way where guys like us are hopping all the way around for different sorts of value edges. Like, does this become more of like the peer-to-peer? Now I'm quote unquote bum hunting for the lesser players, the lesser sharp platform. What do you think the evolution of just the best ball space in general regarding that stuff will be?
I don't know. I mean, I would say like that. I think part of this is the rank. Like, more people are drafting off of rankings this year than a couple years ago, right? So you are seeing like maybe the very first drafts being sharper on Underdog. I would agree with Justin. It's probably because like the big board and there's so much more data about what people wanted to do, but that data also shaped by people getting good information way earlier than like typically good information has been provided. But then also by like day 2, day 3, you have a much higher percentage of people, I think, going off of ranks. And I think that's probably at least partly why it feels like things kind of like shaping into form. Not to even say the rankings are correct, but they're sort of like we're all kind of reaching the consensus quicker. I definitely think that's true. DraftKings is interesting because things move so much quicker over there. So it's like in some ways I think softer, but also some ways it can be a signal of where things might be headed because the ADP tends to move a little quicker. But yeah, I tend to think
or bad for a platform, Pat. Like, do you think Underdog should amend something like that where they do the ADP updates more frequently?
I don't really care. I just think you need to know. You need to know that like if you're on Underdog and someone who's falling, they might not fall as far as you think they should fall. So it's like you got to kind of make the decision. Whereas on DK, if someone is falling and they've got like a Q tag, they might fall like another round. Like and you should push it because in the next draft, like their ADP will be lower. They can really slip like 2-3 rounds over the course of half a week is not crazy. Kind of takes some special circumstances, like some high profile circumstances. I think we'll see Rashee Rice fall pretty significantly on Underdog, but it's like that kind of situation where someone really has to fall like that.
Yeah, I got to say, listening to the ship chasing pod from earlier this week, but I think I listened the day after the Rashee Rice new information came out. It was crazy. Hey, bullish on Rashee Rice. There's a value here. And then Rashee Rice just decides to throw it all away with another punch and just like compound his mistakes. It
makes it way tougher because I do think now you're like, and Drew Davenport had a thread on it where he was kind of articulating some of this. It's like if there's like something's on fire behind the scenes, we might just see the smoke, and you kind of have to think through like, how bad could this get? To me, the second incident, which is actually being questioned, is whether or not there was anything physical that happened there. There were some reports that it was just shouting. But still, it's like it makes you a little worried about like, is there like a larger thing that could threaten, more than half the season? And that definitely has changed my view of it a little. Because it's just sort of like if I think I'm getting 4-game suspension and I eat an 8-game suspension, fine. But if I think I get a 4-game suspension and then like the relationship deteriorates with the team, not fine, not fine at all.
Right.
Like I'm not willing to risk that. So that's
Actually, on the Rice example, it was just sorry, Justin. On the Rice example, it's kind of interesting because someone told me in the chat one day who was a trusted drafter. I can't even remember the screen name right now. But they said that the CBA cannot issue suspensions greater than 6 games unless it's a full season.
Yeah,
is there any legitimacy?
Someone else looked it up on the last stream I was on, and that was incorrect. Because it's the commissioner. It's the commissioner, and I believe he can do whatever he wants.
He's at least the mediator at the end. So if there ends up being a dispute, the CBA goes to the commissioner to make the final judgment. Obviously, Deshaun Watson was a unique one where they made a judgment together, there was arguments for why that amount came because it allowed him to accrue the season, but do that the $1 million for the salary thing. But yeah, Goodell can do what he wants, I guess. But we were going to say we're for Rashee Rice. I think we're at ETR expecting 6 or projecting 6 games missed. And that puts him around like ADP of around 90, 92, which when I was doing drafts, I was like, Yeah, I'm going to take Hopkins. I'm going to take Deontay Johnson ahead of him. But shortly after that, like it kind of feels like a maybe okay risk right now. And then from I think we're hearing that like at least it's going to be a 4-game suspension with opportunity, with potential for more. But
yeah, on Underdog right now, he's 73.6. On ETR, he's 91. On LegUp, he's 74 as of this morning. Did you amend anything this morning, Pat?
We brought him down a little bit more, like I think 78.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So whenever I must have pulled after you amended because I did see the timestamp was still yesterday. That's why I wanted to clarify.
I mean, like, Zay Jones is Zay Jones. Like, he's obviously a replacement level, but like the fact that he is doing a visit to Kansas City today, like, it at least is a little interesting. Like, okay, Kansas City is trying to come up with like potential plans for what if there is not Rashee Rice or what if he's out for like an extended period of time. And then just because you have the addition of Marquise Brown, the addition of Xavier Worthy, like you could see the scheme just being a different style of offense than when Rashee Rice was that kind of their go-to in the latter half of that season. That even if he is only a 4-game, 6-game, he's just not coming back into that same role. I know we're talking way too much about Rashee Rice when this is supposed to be.
Well, I mean, I think people have questions about Rashee Rice, so I think it's good. But like my thing with Rice went back when he was going to play a whole season and everything is that he didn't have he had a pretty. It wasn't like super low, but it wasn't not an impressive first read target rate, and a lot of his targets were coming on secondary reads where the guy probably like MVS or something just wasn't open, and so Mahomes is working back underneath, finding Rashee Rice who's gotten open and like truly earning his targets. So I would talk about like targets are earned and stuff. They are, but also like if you're the first read on the play, you still have to get open, but it's helpful to be looked at first. Rice was getting open, and I think to me it's the type of like this guy has chemistry with Mahomes in his second season as they install him a little bit more in the offense. Like really could be kind of wheels up for Rice. The problem is that hinges on them actually doing that, and if he's suspended for half the season, then are they gonna build the offense around him, or is he gonna come back and he's gonna be in a similar role to last year? But now Xavier Worthy is getting open and Marquise Brown is getting open, and those guys are helping Travis Kelce get open more often. So when he's the first read, he's getting targeted at a higher rate. And all of a sudden, he's kind of this like underneath check down option, but they don't need to go to him that much. So I think it's a really wide range of outcomes. Because I think if they were to say, all right, we're going to lean on Rashee Rice a little bit more, I mean, I think he could smash. But it's just the more stuff like, the situation gets like more concerning. I think it might start to change what they design the offense to be.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think one point in the big board stuff that was a little baked in was, will Kelce retire or be saved for the postseason or that stuff too, that vaulted him up to that like 3rd round territory? Or
are you capitulating yet on Travis Kelce? Justin, this was one of our big debates. Okay.
Yeah, well, and at that time, I think there was still a chance of him retiring. So like that was baking it a little. Also, Rashee Rice was going to be there all year. So like now Rashee Rice suspension, Travis Kelce not only not retiring, but like doing that contract. So like more expectation, like, yeah, he's in it. So I am not on the DraftKings where he's going 24th, 25th overall. Like that's too expensive. But considering like I'm on, hey, I want to leave every draft with a top 7 tight end. He's one of the tight ends, especially on Underdog, that I'm happy to get.
That's a really good segue just in general to landscape stuff, where Leone comes on the show. He's talking about how, the mid-tier of tight ends is priced up too high, kind of fading a little bit of the elite ones or taking one elite. But his favorite builds have been 3 back end, like dart throw tight ends. Whereas Gretsch comes on the show and tells me, 2 elite tight ends, they'll never be this cheap ever again. 4 wide receivers, 2 elite tight ends through 6 rounds, and then eat that running back value. It kind of just speaks to the macro landscape of like what we've done to the 2nd round right now, where we have pushed the elite quarterbacks and the elite tight ends and some of those kind of like 2nd tier running backs further and further down and push the wide receivers up. Long-winded way of asking.
Don't forget Hayden, who wants to draft 8 running backs in the first 8 rounds.
If you followed his ranks just to true form, it would turn out that way. I mean, Josh Jacobs, no matter what, at 15.
Josh Jacobs, no matter what.
Yeah.
I drafted Josh Jacobs the other day. It was, I believe, at the 409, but you know.
I love Hayden, but
wow.
I saw that episode for you guys, and I was just like, Hayden, we need to chat.
Well, okay, let's have the chat without Hayden being here. Let's have the chat.
Those are the best chats.
Yeah. Yeah, let's have the chat. So you said one elite tight end in the first 7 or one of the first 7 tight ends, or one in the first 7 rounds, you said, Justin?
Yeah, I want to leave every draft with one of those first 7. And that goes down to Ingram, Kittle, depending on who you have 6, 7. And like, yeah, I don't know. I think one of the bigger kind of metrics is everyone's like, what's the edge for best ball this year? Like, what should I be doing? How, and I think for that, a lot of it always comes down to just understanding kind of what is the macro kind of draft meta for that year. And a lot of that comes down to kind of understanding positional pockets of the draft. And so like for me personally, I think like, okay, running backs. Yeah, I think like in the first round, you've got up until Gibbs. I've got, okay, I feel pretty good about. Then honestly, most of those guys I'm not looking at unless they're falling substantial ADP. And then I think like there's a very flat tier around 80 to 20 and then a major cliff. And like that's subjective to me. But I think for each person, you've got to kind of figure out like where do you think there is like good pockets of drafting that position. And it's like for wide receiver, I want a whole bunch of them up until about the 80s. And that's that area that we were just talking about where it's like the Hopkins, Deontay, like that kind of range. And I think there's a pretty strong cliff after that. And it's interesting where it's like, okay, so if I like the wide receivers of the 80s, and then I think from the 80s to the 120s, there's like a pretty flat tier. Like, makes sense. I'm going to kind of be drafting running backs in that area and also try to get my wide receivers and tight ends early. And like QBs, I think is actually pretty fair across the board this year. Like if you want to go elite, I think that's fine. If you want to go 3 late, I think that's also fine. How you're building that draft, like I don't think there's a, hey, I need to reach for something or specific others. You're stacking and such. But like that's how I kind of look at the draft from like a, hey, here's where I position when I allocate. And I put that tweet out today. That's kind of the joking cheat sheet that says like, hey, where am I thinking about different positions at different points of the draft? But I think it actually is really helpful for each person to create their own kind of landscape cheat sheet.
Yeah, I think it's
reverse engineering of, sorry, Pat, the reverse engineering of drafts that Pete put out a video similar to that notion earlier this week too.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you want to do. Starting kind of, well, I would say maybe you don't necessarily have to start all the way from the very end of the draft, but you want to basically think, what can I get later? What can I get later in the draft? And what can I get later in the draft? And wide receiver depth is super hard to get later in the draft. It's almost impossible to get later in the draft. Okay, so that you should be heavy on wide receivers early because depth is really difficult to get later in the draft. Doesn't mean you have to go 5 straight wide receivers every draft or anything like that. But wide receiver is a priority early. It's hard to argue against that. You can get running backs like that range that Justin just highlighted there. It's juicy. Now I would say you should be pretty aggressive in that range. Like I don't think. If you kind of sit out most of those picks and really push it at running back, and now you've got Devin Singletary RB1, maybe you could talk me into trying that, but that's probably too aggressive. There is a real sweet spot of running backs ahead. And I think we want to be drafting running backs pretty aggressively in that range. To me, I was surprised to hear that Leone's targeting those tight ends pretty late because to me, what I don't think I can get later in the draft is realistic chance of big time spike weeks at tight end. And so I'm very much more on let me get one of these elite tight ends in pretty much every draft. And if I don't, then I want to be aggressive about making sure at least I get a Dalton Schultz or something like that or a Jake Ferguson, because I'm that's definitely a cut below those elite tight ends, maybe even a couple cuts below, but it's not hard to imagine, Schultz on the Texans scoring twice or whatever. But those spike weeks really, really dry up. It's not like I hate every late round tight end, but
especially if you're stacked. If you're stacked with those Goddard, Schultz, Ferguson, I feel a little better about it, but I'm lying with what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's that like not only am I having to try to find like spike weeks from Kate Otten or whatever, and other people are doing that with, you know, Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, but they're getting Andrews and Kelce at prices far lower than we've ever really paid for those guys. Plus, you've got you've got young options around them that are priced similarly. I feel like you're asking a lot to be able to match those guys at tight end, or even kind of get close and then beat them with what you got instead in those early rounds. So I don't think that like the mid range is overpriced. I think it feels like I think Ingram's priced fine. I think Ferguson's priced fine. I think Goddard's priced fine. Probably too low, frankly. Those guys are all fine to me. It's that the guys ahead of them are like absurdly cheap. And that's why that second tier feels kind of too expensive, because it's relative. But it's like what needs to happen is that the top tight ends need to move up like 2 rounds.
Right. Yeah, that's no. I think like I do like Goddard at that 108, especially when I have Hurts. But like also, I feel like 2 rounds earlier, if I can get Ingram or Kittle, that is just so much better, and I'm not paying. And you look at the other 2v2 I would have gotten in that pairing. Oh, maybe I end up grabbing David Montgomery in that one that I would have got Ingram. And when I grab Goddard, I'm instead grabbing like Zach Moss. Like, yeah, I very much want the Ingram or Kittle and the Zach Moss versus the other one.
Yeah. And I think this landscape stuff's so important. Like you can get kind of, you know, my pushback to like a Josh Jacobs thing, you know, if you like really like Josh Jacobs, think it should be like, think this is like a second round type of dude. Like you can kind of do that with like a bunch of guys behind Josh Jacobs though. You know, like you can do that for like almost every single running back going, you know, like Joe Mixon. Like should Joe Mixon be at 55? Like probably not. He's probably go like more like in the 3rd, 4th round. But like, okay, try doing that. See what happens when you do that. You can't, you know, because someone else is then getting Kenneth Walker in the 6th. Someone else is getting Aaron Jones in the 7th. Like there's so many of these guys. Like the landscape has made it very difficult to swim upstream at running back. And like, you better be right that dude isn't just good, but like the dude, like he is providing a difference making level of production at the running back position, because there's so many other options that to me feel pretty similar that you can get even cheaper.
Okay, so that's a really good point. I want to kind of give my, yeah, I completely agree. These higher end RBs, you're betting on 2 things being right. One is they have that elite production possibility. And then 2 is that they're not going to actually lose their job, higher injury risk. Maybe they actually only get 60% of the touches or such. And like, you need to be right on both of those. With the later guys, like the Zach Moss, Chase Brown, the Gus Edwards, the Pollard, like these guys, they already have that risk baked in, obviously, if whether or not they're going to get the majority of the work or be the guy. But like, that's so much built into the price. So in those scenarios, yes, you're going to be wrong sometimes, maybe 50%, like because you guessed the wrong guy, or maybe it's actually 60% because it was actually neither of them. But when you are right in those situations and you're paying the 9th, 10th, 11th round, that costs like everything else now for your draft is looking so much stronger. And so I'm okay with saying, hey, 50% of these times I'm going to completely miss on this guy, but it's okay because I was still going to miss on that Joe Mixon 30%. But the wide receiver difference of that I'm grabbing Christian Kirk in that 5th instead, I feel much better about Christian Kirk hitting than the Gabe Davis or the I don't know, whoever's the other wide receiver in that similar area.
Lad McConkey or something like that.
Khalil Shakir or
Khalil Shakir.
I mean, Lad McConkey's going next to Kirk.
That's true. He's moving up now. Yeah. He is moving up now. No, I think that's a really good macro concept and reason why here. And it's kind of reflected in your guys' ranks. You know, I juxtaposed the 2 this morning a little bit there. There's definitely some players specific examples that I want to talk about. I think Saquon's a very interesting one to have that conversation because legendary upside is you all right, Justin?
I mean, Saquon, I like literally just threw up my mouth.
He just threw up in his mouth. I think that's just like philosophy. That's kind of maybe highlights the way the rankings come out, because I don't like Saquon. And what we have him at 25. His ADP is 14.8. So it's just that, like, to me, I'm like, the rankings are designed so that like if I was sitting at 25 and Saquon's there, I'm just gonna take him. I'm gonna take him because I'm not gonna get him otherwise. I'm just gonna have 0%. So like, sure, give him to me there. I think you guys are basically saying, I mean, you tell me what you're saying, but it seems closer where you actually think he should go.
Okay, so where what do we have him at?
In the 30s,
you guys have him at 25.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, you have him at 25.
Yeah.
Okay. Who do you have in the 30s? You have someone in the 30s that
Jonathan Taylor, maybe. Kieran's pretty far down, I know.
Oh, I'm seeing it as 30, John. Yeah, on the site.
Yeah, I see 30 in your thing too. Saquon Barkley 30. LegUp is 25.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
Okay, yeah,
Sorry, my bad.
And that makes sense. And honestly, that 30 is also incorporating ADP. So like we actually have him lower than that.
Right.
But yeah, and you know, one of the things always with ranks, like especially when the way that the ETR team is doing it with the actual like literally everything is being projected across the entire season. Yeah, if I'm at 28, if I'm at 26, like, and Saquon's available, I'm probably taking him just for the differentiation aspect, the game theory elements, but like, I'm still not loving it. And same thing that you were saying. Yeah, I think I took Kerrane in a DraftKings one at like, I don't know, I think the 23 or 24, just because he doesn't actually fall that far. And this is going to be a bit of a unique build.
Right. Yeah. I just don't want to be the Saquon bull here. That's my point. I'm just slightly more willing to take the ADP value.
You when I first compared these ranks on opening draft day, you guys were 17 spots higher, and now since amended, it's about 5 here. So I think your guys were just more in line with ADP at the front end. Though I did float the idea yesterday that what if we get a Saquon tush push? Because I mean, you got no more Kelsey at center. You got to teach a new center how to.
Are you saying Saquon is playing center in this play? That I think could happen. Yeah, that's smart.
Silva is very bullish on the replacement for Kelsey under center, and
good you boy.
Yeah, they like him a lot, and he thinks that he's just going to plug right in for the tush push.
Yeah, I think it's a little silly. Like, I know it could be Kelsey, but like, it almost seems like the narrative is like it was Kelsey, but like, I've seen the Jalen Hurts squats videos. Like, that probably helps. probably helps. Rushing quarterback who can squat an insane amount is probably good at pushing a pile.
Also, this guy has been there with Kelsey, and yeah, I'm pretty sure Kelsey taught him if there was like a secret sauce.
Was it on the list and he just forgot? Oh, I forgot to teach him the tush push. Yeah,
I'm thinking of like an employee, like gets, they retire and they bring like the entire password system for like the one, and you got to call them up and be like, hey, so I know you're not really working in here anymore, but can you come in and maybe teach the new guy?
Yeah, they got that one done before you left for sure.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I think we got to talk about one or two at the top of the board, and then we should hop in a draft and just talk about them as they come and have the debates as we draft kind of thing. I know you guys got drafts and content coming more up this afternoon here, but I think the three most interesting relative to ADP for me is the Mike Evans one, because you guys are 11 picks apart and ADP kind of falls right between you guys. Sam Laporta, I mean, kind of no surprise that Kerrane likes this guy, was all over Sam Laporta as a breakout last year, and then now you still view him as such, a little bit of ahead there.
Yeah.
And then Devonta Smith.
So I'll touch real quick on the Mike Evans, the DJ Moore, the Devonta Smith. It doesn't matter. Like, these guys are so flat that we have it where if you give Devonta Smith I don't know what it is, but let's say it's a 19 or 21% target share. If we were to move that to 21.5 or 22% in that area, that moves up like 15 spots. Like, those wide receivers are very flat. So that's one of the things that I'm forcing myself when I'm doing these rankings, because especially if you're on DraftKings, you get like DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman, like very high up in the end of the second, early third round. And that's an important area where, and we try to communicate this, but like, you don't need to only draft because this one is a little higher. In reality, like, think of it as a DFS projections. One of those guys is projected for 15.1. The others are 15. The others are 14.9. Like, it is so close. There's definitely not like hey, we have a strong stance that Mike Evans is substantially that much better than Stephon Diggs because they're 8 spots, when in reality, like, it's very small margins, and that's a very flat. And so Daigle, new to the team, awesome. Love having an ATR. He is focusing right now on doing tiers. And that's specifically like to help out these kind of scenarios, to see not only within a position, within wide receivers, hey, this is a tier, feel free to mix it up there, but also, hey, this is the second round tier. So here are the ones, whether it's maybe actually you're okay with moving a running back up. Nope, we feel Saquon's actually a tier below those. We should really focus on any of those wide receivers.
Love it.
Yeah, the late second or even the mid-second round to the early third has been pretty flat, like the whole time. Like through the big board, this was a thing. And it would be this thing where like that first wide receiver, and it's kind of become Olave is sort of like where the market has sort of settled. And I know you guys really like Olave. And so like I'm like happy enough just to have everyone agree, like, let's pick someone, let's pick a guy. And it seems to be like Olave and Ayuk. So those two, because it used to be that like Olave had an ADP of like 24. So if you put him there, you had a massive stand on him. And then Ayuk, you'd have a massive stand on him. But now they're actually kind of settling in there. But then after that, it's sort of similar where like you pick, if it's Debo, you're going to be really high on Debo, whoever it is. So, you know, that's definitely part of it. I was a little surprised to see you guys this high on Evans. Like I view him as pretty similar to like DK Metcalf. Kind of have I like all these guys above him. Like Neighbors, Waddle, Diggs, Adams, Collins, Samuel, pretty comfortably taking ahead of Evans, just because I'm like it's a Baker Mayfield offense. We kind of got like the best case scenario last year. Chris Godwin wasn't playing in the slot so much. They were going to Evans a ton. And got Godwin now back in the slots more, it sounds like. Another year removed from the injury. And like, Evans was awesome as like a 7th round pick, but it's funny to me, like the market's either like Evans either goes in the 2nd or the 7th. There's no between. We're not taking him in the 4th.
Year after year. He ping pongs from one to there based on how many touchdowns he scored the year before.
So I faded him 2 years ago when he was in the 2nd. He scored like 50 points in week 17, so, and he has that type of weekly ceiling.
Did that help you in any way, Pat?
Only in that Tom Brady also threw to Chris Godwin. So I didn't have Evans. But Evans went on that team. I had Barkley in the 2nd. Evans went before. So he went early 2nd in that particular draft room, which is helpful only, because I probably would have passed on him if he had gotten to me. So it helped. Look, I couldn't have taken him. It was impossible.
And your team wouldn't have actually probably made it to week 17 if you had Evans instead of Barkley.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So yeah, I finished 2nd in my initial pod, so I didn't have like that much margin for error. So that's a good point. But yeah, I mean, like he can definitely. Evans scares me because he can bury me if if I don't have any. But he's not, I don't think, a target at this price. Just as we look at kind of the macro environment, like how explosive do we expect this offense to be? He's an older wide receiver. He actually does have some target competition. So I don't know. He just doesn't feel like the biggest swing to me.
Okay. I think the risks in my mind are Canales is gone. And so like how much was like, hey, QB whisperer with Baker. Number 2, they have said that they want to be a bit more run heavy and, drafting Bucky Irving, maybe you have a little more healthy running back room. Like those are kind of where like I see the risk, but I think from an upside scenario, like, I don't know. I think his target share is locked in pretty strongly. Like, yes, you're going to have Godwin playing maybe a little more slot, but like it's Trey Palmer and
Jalen
McMillan. Yeah. As you're like competing for the 3rd wide receiver spot, we know that Baker has that rapport. So if we are going to project that like, hey, from last year is what we expect going forward, which is what I think the current projections are, it makes complete sense why I think like he can be that slam dunk. Not only from like, yes, the touchdown aspect, but he really is just like the first look primary pass catcher on that option. On that offense. If we want to take more into consideration the larger Baker career, Mike Evans, maybe, I don't know, nothing's shown Mike Evans from an age cliff. So I really don't want to buy into that one just because he's a little older. But like, yeah, I get it. So I've been
age comes first. All he's turning 31 in August. That's not like a major concern to me, but it's just like I do think we should factor in like this is a Baker Mayfield. Like 2 years ago, Baker Mayfield was like the worst quarterback in the league. He gets Canales. He revives his career a little bit. But yeah, I mean, like they couldn't run the ball last year because Rashad White stunk running the ball. Maybe they still can't run the ball. Like I don't know if Bucky Irving is going to fix that. But Yeah.
The one thing about I was just gonna say the one thing about them running poorly was just the fact that they never did away with it. They had one of the highest first down rush rates in all football. They never gave up on it.
And I mean, like, also,
it's true.
I know we don't like to talk about floor in the second, third round, but like, dude literally has 1,000 yards every year. Like,
Every year.
You can literally just take a pen and
Since
write
2014. 2014.
Like, that's gonna happen. And then also, this is a guy, I think Devin says, like, yeah, if someone runs 100 touchdowns, maybe they're just really effing good. Like, he's built 4 touchdowns. Like, he's a, what is he, 6'4", 230, I'm guessing on the spot, but like maybe 6'5". Big guy, really fast. Like, this is your touchdown target. And when you compare who's you can, compete against, like, Godwin and these others, it makes sense that he's going to get 1,000 yards. He's going to get a lot of touchdowns. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Maybe there's other wide receivers around him that I 100% agree have a higher upside than Mike Evans because he's attached to Baker. It's still kind of that run first offense.
Yeah.
But like,
it just feels a little early for vegetables. Like second round, I have to eat vegetables already. Can I have a little fun until the third round? I'll eat my vegetables in the third round. Can you wait until the third round?
Definitely the meat and potatoes. Like,
he's a vegetable, bro.
Yeah, but if he's a vegetable and he's potatoes, at least potatoes, you can be sliced up. They can bake nice. We can go fully loaded. We can go French fries.
I'll take a potato.
Yeah,
he can be a potato. He can be a starch. He's not meat.
It's a bag of suds that I'm drafting with overs that's photoshopped in one of his videos. Yeah. But again, it goes back to, so you're right. He shouldn't be late second, but every single wide receiver that you tell me should be late second.
No one should be late second. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
And this is why I take a lot of Devin Achane because he's not potatoes. That's some prime cut. Maybe sliced too thin. Maybe it's a little too thin of a cut. But
and that's where, like, when Kerrane falls or Achane, like, I think those are legitimate kind of end of second. For me, I have Olave and Devontae as that tier above. And I think, like, after that is where the flat really goes. So if I can get Olave or Devontae, I'm taking those before the running backs. If it's any of the other wide receivers, then I'm kind of figuring it out, maybe mixing it up just to get some kind of unique lineups.
Devontae is another guy I'm struggling with just with the price. I know, we've taken him at the 1-2 turn. He's paid that off. But like, if we look at offenses that could just like collapse, this is like top 5 like offenses we're worried about just like absolutely bottoming out. Adams has I think it's a $45 million cap hit next year, and they saved $30 million by moving on. He's gone after this season. He's 100% gone. So like, there's like, it just kind of gives me the vibes. You're heading into the season with Gardner Minshew as like the plan. This is not a very good team. They're going to be running a lot of 12 personnel, I think, and running the ball a bunch with Zamir White. I think Antonio Pierce is like fine, but it's just like personnel wise, I have a lot of worries. And then I know Adams is going to be elsewhere next year. So it's like, what does this look like at the end of the season? Like, are we trying out Aiden O'Connell again? Like, this just, I just like, man, I know he's survived this like every time, but like the fact that he keeps surviving these horrible situations doesn't necessarily make me want to like head back into another horrible situation with him in the second round. Another guy, I'd be so much more comfortable with him in the third round. And I know this tier is flat, but like to me, he is not a priority in the early second, or not early second, in the after that tier break right around Olave. He's not a priority for me there.
Yeah, and I mean,
the parallels between the two of those are very strong. Adams and Evans here, like just in terms of like age cliff and bottom of offense bottoming out, but have always survived these situations in the past.
Yeah, and to be clear, like once it comes back around, like it's just like I want to take Olave and then have Evans sitting there in the third, or have Adams sitting there in the third, which doesn't really happen. But that's where I want that guy to be, and to kind of flip it, I'm having trouble with.
Yeah, and like I think you touched on it, where it was before COVID, before Devontae probably was in a functional offense. Like it's just been every single year been horrible, and he still is putting up not only strong seasons, but substantial spike weeks. And I'm talking like big spike weeks.
Yeah.
And that's where like
he earns targets. He really does.
Yeah. From a player standpoint. And like, I know Gardner Minshew with the Colts, it was a very different with RPO, and like Pittman was just that kind of go-to for those RPOs. But like, I wouldn't be shocked if Minshew is the kind of guy who just locks on to his number one, and like that could be Devontae. And so like, yes, I agree that the worst case offensive scenario is literally what we've seen the past 2 years for Devontae. So if that's worst case, I'm okay with it. Now just give me median outcome.
Yeah, but it's like one of these things where like if you keep like throwing the bad situation at him and it's like bounces right off, but one of these times like it's gonna catch him and he's done. Like I'm just worried like he's getting a year older. You keep throwing horrible situation at him, he's like dodging it. But what if he doesn't dodge it? It's over. Like,
in Minshew's defense, he supported Pittman very well last year to the tune of like hyper like first read 10+ target a game kind of stuff. So I mean,
Pittman was a top 5 projected wide receiver for that like last third of the season. Like it was insane how high we had to project him because of just the amount of targets and high value touches like he was getting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
No,
that's a good point. I mean, and Adams is more like I'm following up Adams a little bit more, into that range. And he's not a priority for me there, but you could talk me into him, I guess, as early as like 19, which is only like one spot behind ADP.
Yeah, it's interesting when for me it's a question of him versus the running backs. For me, it's not him versus the other wide receivers.
Okay,
I'm taking Achane there. Like I like Achane a lot. I mean, I think
on DraftKings too.
Yeah, it's just like the dude was so explosive. I understand what you're saying on DraftKings with PPR element and everything with the wide receivers, but you can generally it's weird because on DraftKings you can kind of bail yourself out at wide receiver a little bit easier than on Underdog. On Underdog, I'm like more laser focused on trying to get the wide receiver depth early. On DraftKings, I think I can kind of out draft people a little bit more, and so I'm willing to get like a little looser.
DraftKings, you always had that magical like Jarvis Landry PPR merchant that you could fall back on as like wide receiver 8 or 9.
Yeah, I think you can and some of the rookies go a little later on there, and like so. That's kind of my thought. If DraftKings had the same ADP environment, then I would probably not take him over him. But yeah, I mean, like to me, Achane's just like the fact that he can get there on 12 touches is like a plus. Like I'm like, I love that. Like, why would I want? You're giving me like the same point total, and like one guy takes 25 touches to get there, and one guy takes 12. Like, give me 12 all day. So that's the single week spike week upside that you're getting with Achane, I think is extremely appealing. You can argue that Adams gives you, I think argue successfully, Adams gives you that same upside. We've seen it over the years, but that is what I want. Like if I'm taking a running back early, I want to know that he can be like, well, let's look at the Achane teams because those are the ones advancing. And I think he very much has that.
No, I respect that take a lot. I got to get a multi-sport take off my chest for my multi-sport draft leads in the chat. Oh, GA say another Mr. Good Boy climbing by. Yep, absolutely. I got to get this one off my chest. Devin Achane is to the NFL as Ellie De La Cruz is to baseball. And it's just like, he's so fun, he's so electric, and he's breaking everybody's mean projection models because you can't bake in the hyper efficiency. And then I'll say to a lesser extent, Keaton Mitchell is to this game as O'Neal Cruz is in terms of ADP and whatever. If that goes completely by you guys, just let it ride and we'll just move on.
You could have just like AI generated 2 names and I would have been like, cool.
So first half I got you, but I would say that the baseball bros want Ellie De La Cruz to be Devon Achane. Because it's such a small sample size, especially for baseball, of what we've seen so far from him. But yeah, he's come out just guns blazing, and anyone who faded him, blah blah blah. Yeah. No idea that other guy.
Just have a little fun with it. I think a really good way to tie a bow on this and then hop into a draft is a question that rolled through in the chat here. If I could find it, it was. I'm scrolling now. Here you go. that tier. So now we've all agreed that this tier is really flat and it's arbitrary and you can move it around. We're building a portfolio over the course of the summer, which is that one wide receiver in that 2 through 3 or back end. This can be relative to ADP. This can be just straight up, however you guys want to quantify it. For me right now, it's Devonta Smith relative to ADP. I've been scooping him every single time back end 3rd or 4th. Him and Cooper Kupp kind of interchanging. How about you guys?
To me, I want to be over on Malik Neighbors. That's the guy that I'm really excited about in terms of, the prospect profile being kind of really just as good as Marvin Harrison's. It's just that I think Harrison's that little next level of safer. He's kind of a little bit more traditional, but I actually think Neighbors, he didn't end up in an amazing spot, but it's a decent enough spot because he's kind of got a DJ Moore kind of profile where he can be awesome as a deep threat, but he can be awesome on underneath stuff. He can be awesome on design stuff. He can be awesome on intermediate stuff. However you versatility is kind of one of the things that Neighbors brings to the table, along with explosiveness and big playability. So you have potential for that situation to potentially implode. But if it implodes, you're getting Drew Lock at quarterback. And so I'm I don't hate that as far as worst case scenarios go. And I think he's such a good prospect. And we know that the production is going to be back weighted. That's the other thing that's just so important. So he's the guy that I'm really happy to click on there. And then the guy that he gets compared to is the dude I'm probably most underweight on of this whole range, DJ Moore. I just feel with Odunze going there, there's a lot of ways that this can split in terms of this has to be one of the more fragile kind of projections that we're going to make, because how do we know who's going to have, the highest target share over the course of the season? DJ Moore could be kind of more of the big play guy. Keenan Allen led all wide receivers in open score last year. I think he's still kind of got it. So, and then Odunze could be really good. Dude just went top 10. He could be the best of these guys over, a career. When we look back, who was the best of these 3 receivers over the career? It's possible it's Odunze, as good as these 2 guys are. And so that's concerning to me, especially when we think about when is Odunze likely to make the biggest impact. It's at the end of the season. So to me, DJ Moore he could be kind of more front loaded with this talented rookie coming on at the back half of the season. Then he's catching passes from a rookie quarterback. How run heavy versus pass heavy is this team? So I would like not to be fading DJ Moore, but I kind of am right now.
Fair enough. I think I got to get the Doomsday one out here because we talked about it yesterday with Davis and Pete there, that I compared it to Tyler Boyd's contingent upside is how he's being viewed right now. They're completely different players. I just mean in terms of how people were thinking about it. He's 3rd in the pecking order. He's a contingent guy. If one of those guys goes down, he would vault back to where his previous ADP was in the 3rd-ish round, right? The outlier potential is he's actually Jamar Chase of that 3 set right now. You know what I mean? Where it's Rome could be the Chase, or Rome could be to Chase in that Bengals more so than, Tyler Boyd ever could have been to Chase in that. And we're not baking that into his price right now.
Or he could at least be better than Higgins, and Odunze could at least be better than one of the 2. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't know who's who. And Odunze, you can get Odunze. Odunze drops into the 7th round. He's the way to play this, in my opinion. You take it's 3 guys we think are all talented in a very uncertain situation. I'm not into the guy I have to pay, early 3rd round prices on. I'm into the guy that I can get in the 7th. I'm actually more into Keenan Allen too, where sometimes I'll go ahead and take Keenan Allen, where I think if I'm drafting close to the start of the draft, then I think I can actually go ahead and get a Odunze in the late 6th, early 7th, and then I can double stack it that way. But taking DJ Moore in that early 3rd round, I don't know. I really struggle to do it.
Sounds good. Herzig, what do you think,
Yeah,
man?
I agree with you on Devontae Smith. That one just feels like it's, I don't know, the ADP just feels off, and it's just one of those where maybe if it moved up, someone else would fall. And yeah, but I think that's a really strong one. And it's probably the highest, that ETR from the gap for that tier. For me, also, it stacks really well with the Jalen Hurts aspect, although like it honestly stacks too well. So you've just got so much of that. Like you actually maybe want to not take Jalen Hurts because then you can differentiate. But for me, I'd probably go Jalen Waddle. I think attached to that offense, the explosivity, like we forget how fast that Jalen Waddle actually is and his yards after catch ability because like Tyreek's right there. But when you're attached to that offense, and then also Tua is a player that's in that 109 tier, like ADP. So I'm happy to draft a quarterback there. You can know that, hey, where the Tyreek guy is, and that's the only person you're really fighting against. So from a stacking aspect, I like grabbing Waddle. So I think he's undervalued from his ADP. He's also fits really strong builds that I like. For me, the fade would be Stephon Diggs. And this one is kind of similar to the DJ Moore argument, but you've got an aging wide receiver who, I don't know, there's already some form of kind of, some question marks, not only from like age aspect, but also like mental aspect. Like, and when you go onto a new team and you've got two other really good wide receivers right there, like there's just a lot of risk of that floor falling out from underneath him.
Diggs seems like somewhat charming, but then maybe the charm wears off. So how quickly does the charm wear off?
It could be. Hey, as soon as it's game 3 and he's not getting the targets. Yeah.
It's not charming anymore.
But like, and so I think there's just a lot of risk for a Stephon Diggs joining a new team with those other wide receivers. Yeah.
Good shout. Yeah. I always come back when Stephon Diggs' name comes up and they talk about like the dynamic with locker rooms and stuff like that. I always come back to that Vikings video that they put out like 2-3 years ago. And they're going around the locker room asking which teammate would you not want to date your sister? And every single guy is like, Diggs, Stephon Diggs, no chance. Diggs, no chance going near my girl. Like going near my sister.
Diggs can't even defend himself. He's just like, why? And they're like, you can see he knows why.
He's going Michael Jordan shrug on everything with his dry smile.
He knows. You know why.
You know why, and you can't say right now on camera.
I like both the adjusting guys a lot. Waddle would have been probably the other guy I would have picked. I do just want to like the DJ Moore versus Diggs thing. I think is kind of interesting because like we at least know Stroud is Stroud. Like we're like Caleb, we don't even know is Caleb Stroud? Maybe not. I mean, he's probably fine, but like is he Stroud? So like that's another thing where I'm like, yeah, Diggs scares me, and you have the added element of like no one will let their sister date him. DJ Moore, we've not heard that about. So you do maybe want to price that a little bit, but like the offense, like what's the offensive environment? We're thinking that the Texans are going to move toward the pass with a potential elite passer. I want a piece of that offense. Nico's gone. Yeah, okay, let's take the chance on Diggs. It's like an easier sell for me where it's like no one's gone. I'm breaking the seal on Bears pass catchers with Moore. So I think the comparison makes a lot of sense, but it's like almost underlines why Moore just makes me nervous there.
Yeah, Chicago has the QB risk. Houston has but DJ Moore has the benefit of being the number one option on that team the year before.
Right.
Houston
with a different quarterback.
Right.
And a different offensive coordinator.
Agree. Houston has the QB assured, but like also rapport with the two existing wide receivers and a lot of success with Diggs being the new guy in.
Yeah. And
but I mean, the offensive coordinator shifting is not nothing. Like what does it even mean that he was there? Like, was he there? Like, no one else was there. So like what? He just like knows Chicago better? Like, what's the advantage?
He knows where to get the pizza, man.
He knows where to get his deep dish.
knows where to take the sisters out on dates. Yeah.
I find the Tank Dell conversation like mixed in with this very interesting. Also because of like the health thing, the knee, and then the getting shot thing as well plays a factor. But then also just the fact that like Stroud clearly has this rapport with Tank Dell where he brings him up every single time he talks about football. He talks about how much he loves Tank Dell, like this sort of thing. Does that weigh into your guys' evaluation in any regard in this situation, or is it just purely anecdotal and it doesn't matter.
I mean, I think rapport is extremely important. Whether or not like it's coach speak or QB speak is obviously what you've got to figure out. But no, I mean, I think we've seen an entire season, or not a season, maybe 10 games of the two of them really having that strong rapport. And I like Tank Dell a lot too, especially I said I've been doing a bunch of DraftKings, but like way too cheap on DraftKings. I'm getting a lot of him.
I think if Tank Dell had stayed healthy, we would be drafting him over Nico Collins and wouldn't really be thinking twice about it. I mean, he was outperforming Nico when they were both on the field together. Now he's small. He's really small, and he got hurt on a blocking play. Do you guys who do you want to take here?
Yeah, you guys each throw a name, and I'll break the tie.
Either Amon or Hero RB. I'm fine with either.
I'd say Amon Ra. Yeah, just
that's what I would do by myself.
On streams, you break ties to the wide receiver is just generally, I think, good practice.
Right.
But I mean, Tank was awesome. He was really efficient, awesome in open score. Stroud like asked them to draft this dude, and then like when he's like putting together like his all team, like Dell is on it. Like this doesn't feel like quarterback speak to me. It feels like quarterback loves this wide receiver, thinks he's awesome, and then gets on the field and he plays awesome, and he gets targeted a bunch. Like this is a very underpriced second year breakout. Is the way I look at it. I mean, I do not think you want to be fading Tank Dell in the 4th round. The market agrees. The market thinks he's the fade. But when the market has already priced that in to some extent, like, I mean, this dude, he's explosive. He gets open. His quarterback absolutely loves him. Everything we said about like Diggs is, potentially opening up targets for Dell. I mean, if Diggs kind of washes out, this doesn't work out. I mean, that raises, I mean, Dell's like a 2nd round pick easily. And Nico Collins has never had a good season until last year. Then he has this hyper efficient season, but he did a lot of that damage when Dell was out. Not to say Nico's not good, but like we're actually, I think, we're being a little overconfident in how this shifts because we got 2 guys going at the 2-3 turn and 1 guy going in the middle of the 4th and falling.
Right. I think the expectation is that Diggs is going to get. Okay, let's pick this first. You guys know who my pick is, but
okay, let's do it.
Okay. I think the expectation, is that the underneath is going to go to Diggs, because that's kind of what they lacked last year. Like Tank Dell, even though he's a smaller guy, still plays downfield. It's open downfield. Do we think like we're going to see like is the efficiency of the entire offense going to make up for a lower targets per yards per route run because Diggs is going to get more of these underneath, or do we think like I don't know? I think that's where my only Dell concern is, but like either way, I'm still mentioning like I love Dell at his ADP, and would not be shocked if he's the number 1 wide receiver by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Like Dell could be a bad pick. Like he could be a bad pick, but like, I don't know, a lot of these guys could be bad picks. And like this dude, he had 2.22 yards per route run last year as a rookie tied to an awesome quarterback. You're giving me that in the 4th round, I'm going to draft it. I was drafting the heck out of Rashee Rice before all this stuff because the same thing. It's like this dude's tied to Patrick Mahomes. He was hyper efficient as a rookie. I mean, and he had draft capital behind him. Obviously, it's a different situation as we talked about now. But when you have a guy who immediately comes in and performs like this, and then other metrics are supporting it, like this guy gets open downfield, like I'm drafting that guy in the 4th round. Like that's a potential league winner. Awesome offense, awesome player. I mean, this is like because like a mercurial wide receiver got traded there, we can't draft him anymore. Like I don't know. It's pretty easy to see how this breaks. And it's like, all right, Tank Dell is like the guy you needed.
Right. I think the question then is like, well, then why isn't like he going higher? Like I think it's clear. Like the assumption is Stephon Diggs cannot play the Nico Collins role in that offense. Like just at this point in Stephon Diggs' career, he's just not able to play that more downfield. So like the assumption is, okay, well then maybe he can steal some of Tank's, but I'm not sure like how accurate that assumption is. Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. Neighbors goes at 20 there. Laporta comes up. We got Pittman, Henry, Josh Jacobs. We can do the Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I'd be down to those 3 guys. I think Pittman's one of the worst picks on the board.
Okay.
Then I'd go Devontae.
All right.
Pittman, I truly don't understand.
Likewise.
He's not that good. He's never really been that good. He was fine last year with Minshew just peppering him, but that's not what this offense is going to be. In fact, that's they almost can't be that. Like Anthony Richardson came in and he's like everything we were worried about with him, like kind of being inaccurate on short stuff and all that. Like that's true and was always pretty clearly true. I loved Anthony Richardson coming in because he doesn't throw for 6 yards, he runs for 6 yards, but he can hit stuff downfield. Josh Downs comes in as kind of an interesting, he can kind of be like a deep slot guy. He can also he's just good, but he's undersized, but he's good. Then they draft AD Mitchell, who, I don't know if he's going to be anything, but if he is something, he's going to be a really interesting downfield guy and red zone target. And then you have Pittman. He's a possession receiver. Possession receiver tied to Anthony Richardson's the worst thing you can be. I don't get this ADP at all.
So I brought this up within our ETR because I kind of a similar hesitance on just anyone on the Colts besides Anthony Richardson. And so here's at least what Silva's response was. I think Pittman maintains a high volume role in the super RPO oriented offense. They gave him a big extension, still lack of clarity at tight end. AD Mitchell doesn't necessarily profile as a huge target commander. And then Leone was touching, he thinks there's a bit more market overreacting to the switch back to Anthony Richardson.
This is a guy with Richardson we were drafting here, which I think was an overreaction there. I think he's always been a 5th round player. He was a 5th round player last year, and Richardson got hurt, and then he gets a lot more targets than he would have. He's a 5th round player now that Richardson's there, and we're drafting him in the 3rd.
Yeah, fair enough. I see it both ways there. The one that really gets me excited that I wanted to hit on there, Kerrane, is you and I were both overweight on Alec Pierce last year because we were like, A-Rich can throw that deep ball. Let's get excited about this. The price is palatable. Am I doing the same dumb exercise again by pairing him with AD Mitchell over and over again so far in my mini schnauzers?
I think in the mini schnauzer is actually the best way to do that because my thing with Mitchell is he should be cheaper. He should fall more. So if it's in the mini schnauzer and you're not going to get that cheaper price, I think that's fine. But in Best Ball Mania, I wouldn't really be drafting Mitchell that much. He wouldn't be a priority for me, really. And I've done some stuff on DK where I make sure I go ahead and get Mitchell just for a double. But Downs on DK is the guy I actually try to prioritize a little bit more because he's so much cheaper. Even on Underdog, he's got an ADP 138. So if I'm just trying to pair and the single stack with Anthony Richardson's obviously totally fine. So I think Mitchell should probably fall another 10 picks. Yeah.
Jalen Hurts just going right there is a bit tough.
Yeah, that was. The aforementioned Tank Dell, Zay Flowers we haven't talked about yet. We can push up some tight ends or quarterbacks. What do you guys like? I
like both those wide receivers.
Yep, I agree. I'm happy with either. I'd probably I think I have Tank ahead, but I'm happy with the ADP from Zay. Tank, you at least leave yourself the stack open. You're not going to get Lamar to fall.
You're not going to get Lamar, yeah.
Okay, let's leave the stack open, and it just feels kind of weird not to take Tank after we just had such a spirited conversation about him in general, right?
There's a lot to like about Zay too, but yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. It's just his name wasn't brought up.
No, I agree. Yeah. I have Tank out.
So you guys have Mitchell. You guys have Mitchell at 153. So you guys think he should fall even further than?
It's unfortunate because he's a player that if we didn't have the big board and what he was drafted beforehand, he's someone that I think I actually kind of liked him from a best ball standpoint. But as you mentioned, it's just going to take so long for that ADP to revert to what it actually should be. And it may never actually get there just from a game theory aspect of, well, he was going this ADP for this long and so forth.
Fun exercise. If the Bills had taken him at 33, where do you think his ADP would be and should be right now?
I think he'd be at the 6-7 turn.
Near Rome, right. Near Odunze. A little higher than that.
Yeah. I think he would be slightly more loved than Keon Coleman.
Yeah, I agree. Which is it's weird how our paradigm shifted with the draft and big board season to now. because I think a lot of us liked AD more than Coleman.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
think
like-
been like a lot more liked. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't
probably right.
like Keon Coleman. We really liked AD. Like, obviously, we have this new information about what the league told us, but like, just putting myself in that mindset, oh my God, like rockets would have just been exploding out of people's pants for like AD there.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Because if he goes 33, it actually, we feel like, okay, he didn't go in the first round, but so what? 33 to the Bills. Like, that's basically first round pick. He's on the Bills, wheels up. Yeah, I mean, he's going to go higher than what I said. Probably, I mean, maybe 5-6 turn.
We'd be jumping up and down to celebrate the Bills too for like trading down and still getting their guy.
They
and
still
like,
got their guy.
Yeah, I know the Bills are so sharp, man.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
All right, so Stroud went naked, so we're not stacking that, which I'm perfectly okay with.
Worthy at 50 now.
This is where, without looking at the stuff, like this is where I'm like, do we want to grab a tight end or
well, Andrews is about to go
to Chris?
Yeah, Chris get drafter. Chris is in a lot of stuff with us.
I don't know. He's taking too much time to not do the easy Mark Andrews.
No, don't you just smash Andrews in here?
He either wants us to talk about him during this delay, or he got distracted and
there you go. There's Andrew. He just wanted the attention.
All right, we got some wide receivers at the top there. We got Kyle Pitts or George Kittle as kind of like tier breaks at tight end if you guys want to go that route, or some running backs.
We could also take Anthony Richardson.
I'd probably go Kyle Pitts, but
that's fine with me. We can go Pitts.
This is a good talking point. Like, we're getting to that point where maybe next round I would have still been okay with Kittle and Ingram, but if I miss out on those, it feels really bad. And how much are we actually gaining by waiting? Maybe we grab the tight end next versus whoever we grab with that 67 pick. In my mind, is pretty similar, other than Anthony Richardson, but that's just a very different draft than who's available right now.
Yeah, that's what I tend to go. I probably would have gone Richardson there and then play for like a Kittle or an Ingram the following round. But the thing is, like, the way tight end goes, like, I think those guys are still very much in play. I'm not a typical like bully tight end type of drafter, but with the prices being what they are, it's way more interesting to me this year.
One thing that probably should have taken more consideration is I don't like our current stack partners. We're missed out on Stroud and Hurts, which is fine. And now I'm not going to go for Gardner. So like, you could go Goff, sure, but like that doesn't excite me.
Right. I think that's where Richardson has some appeal because you're just like, you can backdoor stack him later and like he can cover like a Stroud explosion that gets us the Dell score we need. Like he can kind of get us, where you were only giving up like 8 points or whatever.
Yeah. Cousins is clearly in play for us.
Cousins very much in play,
with this right now. Cousins, Goff are right around the same. Probably end up with at least one of those, maybe two, and see what else we can figure out.
Like it. Hey guys, we still got like 200 some odd people here. Do us a favor, hit that like, subscribe, notification. No more content this week. Actually, that's not true. I might pop back on for members only right before NBA lock if I'm jamming 100. But don't hold me to it. But I might still do it. But there's plenty. There's plenty more content coming you guys' way that's football adjacent today. We got ship chasing moving to 3 p.m. Eastern, and then Herzig's jumping on with the man Adam Levitan, all 3.9 of him to rip a draft 3 p.m. as well.
Yeah, right after this. Not the greatest timing, but apparently someone decided to move theirs, and I don't think I looked to see. So we'll be moving.
It's just a rivalry day. This is just a rivalry day. I like it.
I literally told I was like, all right, let's figure it. We'll be moving our streams to a different time than ship chasing going forward.
Sounds good. Who do you guys like?
I like Alvin Kamara a good amount.
That's fine.
Does that have anything to do with the fact that he scored you 5 touchdowns to win a BBM?
I've soured on Alvin Kamara when it turns out he's a shitty human. But I donated a decent amount to like his charity of choice after that win, and then he goes and just like starts, doing not good stuff, and I really felt bad about it.
Oh, yeah, that's bad. Actually, I heard a really funny story that just came across my timeline yesterday that I hadn't heard before about donating to a charity that got taken away as what the hell's the Matthew McConaughey. I was blanking on his name I was gonna be like, who's the all right guy for a second.
Well,
I actually read his book, Green Lights. It's pretty good. But Matthew McConaughey had like a bet, and then he lost the bet, and they said, "Yo, give it to a charity of your choosing." So the guy chose Gamblers Anonymous to give it to, and you have to write in the blurb like, "Why are you donating this money, and what is the story?" And he's like, "I lost a bet," and they're like, "We can't accept this money, sir," and gave the money.
Oh my god.
That's actually the perfect reason for them to accept it. Like, this is someone who made a bet and they lost it. So, like, yeah, I need to punish myself by helping people who have gambling addiction.
Yeah.
I've been rewatching, because when you have a little baby, there's actually there's a lot of unstructured downtime that just is put upon you, but you can't get anything done, but you also don't have that much to do because you're rocking a baby. Yeah. The drafting helps, but you don't know, what if this whole serene environment might get blown up in 10 minutes. So committing to a fast draft is risky. I can tell you from experience. But anyway, I've been rewatching some Eastbound and Down. Matthew McConaughey, his cameos in that are just really spectacular.
Yeah.
Speaking of children and watching TV shows, and maybe this is a little more in the future, and I don't have any children yet, but I feel like I'm missing out on the Bluey phenomenon. Apparently I should just start watching this show just because it's a good show, even though I don't have children. I don't know if other people in chat or if you guys have gotten into the Bluey at all, but
she can't focus her eyes yet and understand. She does not know that I exist and that she exists as two separate entities. So we're not quite to Bluey.
Maybe you just wanted to watch it. I don't know, but
yeah, if I put on Bluey, it's because I want to watch it. The 4-week-old isn't demanding Bluey yet.
I don't have kids yet, but I got 3 nephews under 5 there, but they are just enamored with they're farm boys, so they're just enamored with trucks and all this sort of stuff. So we just watch monster car rallies when we watch TV. That's it. That's it. That's all they want to watch. Uncle John, put on the monster cars, man. Put on monster trucks. Let's go.
That's not bad. That's similar here, but it's boats. Yeah.
We got ourselves no quarterback yet, but 1-4-1. We took that elite tight end in Kyle Pitts. They're coming up on some ambiguity in the draft room here. What do you guys like? Where are we going to push this?
Do you want to go Zamir for the Raiders thing?
If you want.
What else do we like?
I would normally go wide receiver because I think this is a cliff, but also I'm fine with the Zamir if we want.
Who's the wide receiver that you would go with?
JSN or Deontay? Probably Deontay, but either.
I think we go running back. I don't.
Okay, go. Click Zamir.
All right. I admittedly haven't done a ton of Zamir. His ADP keeps rising and stuff, and I find myself clicking Zach Moss over him. I don't know. I push up Zach Moss into that next round.
I'm trying to get Zamir now. I think this is fine for Zamir, and if he's going to keep rising, there's going to be a point at which he's sort of an obvious fade. So I just feel like if I can get him in the 70s or 80s, cool. And when he's in the 60s, I'll move on to bigger and better things.
I agree with what you've also more recently been saying. I'm not actually sure if he is going to keep moving.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he doesn't rise as much as we thought. Yeah.
Because the ETR rankings are not going to help push that up. I think there's substantial risk as well. At the end of the day, he's a mostly, maybe a 2-down back on a bad offense. It's possible. We did see some signs that maybe he's going to play a bit more of a pass catching role, but it's just hard. How much are we going to believe the last 4 games being that run heavy and also that effective, or bad?
Are we sure he's good?
No.
Okay.
But doesn't also matter probably. But yeah,
yeah, that's true. That is
he's better than Madison. I am sure of that.
Yeah, he's better than Madison. And it's I don't know. I think the bigger part of the conversation to me is that I just am having a really hard time getting there on Deontay Johnson. I could it's easier for me to see JSN in some ways just because you're betting on the talent, but Deontay Johnson's he is what he is, right? He gets open very short. He doesn't do anything after that, including catch the ball sometimes. So, and now he's like with Bryce Young and like Adam Thielen's like also there doing the same exact thing. They just drafted a wide receiver in the first round. It's probably not very good, but it could be. And they're going to run the ball a bunch. They draft a running back in the second round, particularly down the stretch. I think they could be that kind of Raiders that just running the crap out of the ball down the stretch. Jonathan Brooks is looking like a really strong young running back they can just ride, and they're not passing that much. I don't know. Maybe it's like I'm lowering him from a talent perspective. I know we can get open, but like nothing happens after that, and nothing has like ever happened after that, really. So I struggle.
Twitter today told me that he's Garrett Wilson. So I don't know if you.
I think Twitter told you that Garrett Wilson is him. Is it
the same thing? I don't think A equals I.
No, I think it's that Garrett Wilson really should be a 7th round pick, but also, but we should still take him in the 2nd. But he should really be a 7th.
Yeah, but and I think now look at this. This is right, and maybe it was JSN, but like there was just such a teardrop there that I think was really.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I would go DeAndre here, but I also like Najee. I think.
Did Warren go? We missed Warren. Yeah, god damn it.
Yeah, Warren went.
Yeah, Najee's fine. DeAndre's fine.
Let's go DeAndre because maybe, just maybe, Caleb falls to us in the next round, and then we take him just for the team stack and value. But
okay, good little tiebreak metric there. Are you guys factoring in your builds right now? Anything like as tiebreak for like divisional correlation or anything like that, or is it just kind of like let the chips fall where they may?
Barely.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I'll break ties to it, but it's not massive. It's interesting. Like I don't know. Are you more wide receiver pilled than I am now, Justin? Because like having these 4 wide receivers, I'm okay kind of pushing through where I see the tier break. Like I'm like it probably comes down to just to where we see the tier break, but like I see a tier break, but kind of before Deontay, and then I'm like, what's the difference? I can come back and grab someone in that like 10th, 11th round range and get my wide receiver 5 there. I would be playing it differently if I only had 3 wide receivers. It would become a priority. But with 4, that's not playing it.
I like 5 wide receivers. That's kind of my number, is to get 5 before we start veering into these running backs and such. What it kind of, because I'm also planning like, hey, we're going to use 2 of these upcoming picks on QBs. With you've got, you know, maybe it's the Caleb, but the Goff. You've got the I keep wanting to say Drake London, Kirk Cousins. So like I'm already accounting for 2 QBs there. Yeah. 4 wide receivers feels a little light to me.
The one thing about JSN too, like obviously like new offense, gets out of the wrist injury stuff like late in that year, and he could play that, you know, Jalen McMillan role from the UW offense, but with JSN, and I really like the prospects of that, like just in general, and it gives us a backdoor stack at Geno as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons to like JSN from a best ball perspective as well, where, you know, year 2 wide receiver gets the, you know, that additional offseason to work. You've got still contingency upside. I don't think we saw Lockett or DK really get hurt the entire season. So we never even get to see what that looked like. Also, Lockett really is getting close and probably over that age cliff aspect, if not this year, like very soon. So he's at a 7th round price tag. I like him. I think we probably would have ended up going Hopkins if he didn't go the pick before, because I know Pat's
I like Hopkins a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still on Hopkins. That's a good case though. And I do, yeah. Just given how like juicy the running backs are, like we're already like kind of good at running back, and we probably don't need to be good at running back yet.
That's a good one.
So
yeah.
Each time we have a wide receiver available here, we can be like, would we rather have had this wide receiver and this running back that's available and JSN, or Zamir and this wide receiver? And I think we're going to see a lot of, we'd rather have had JSN and whoever, I don't know, these running backs are. Yeah.
I think you're right.
We can triple down on our Vegas stuff with Bowers, so I think he's, and just, we can backstack or go rushing upside.
Just don't feel good about any of our other expected QBs. And
yeah, I like it. Jaden was someone I was thinking about. Once we pass on Richardson, kind of gives us that little juice.
It gives us some backdoor stacking outs too.
Eckler and Robinson with the next pick if we wanted a running back, but we don't need it. You've got Dotson coming up pretty quickly. Ben Sinnott would be a decent tight end to go with Kyle Pitts. So,
Herzig, you know how I know you know ball?
Because I pronounced it correctly?
Yeah, straight. Well done.
Is it Sinnott?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was
I
Sinnott.
learned that yesterday because I didn't know ball before yesterday, but I learned that yesterday.
There's a good article from the NFL that puts out like the pronunciations. And so I can link it to everyone in the chat here. However,
that'd be awesome because I need that. I get clowned every draft.
Where are you at on Cortland Sutton? Because he feels like, to me, I'm like, are we going to look back and be like, man, I wish we had JSN instead of Cortland Sutton, the number one wide receiver on an offense that isn't horrendous? Like, I mean, that's the bet, right? It might be horrendous. It very much might be horrendous, but this offense like could be totally functional now that they've got. I mean, the whole thing with Bo Nix is that like he's low upside, but he can probably come in, hit the ground running as a point guard. Sutton is, I mean, that's like where I'm like, where is this tier break exactly? Because if I can get the number one wide receiver on an offense who we all think is kind of fine, and you know, there's a decent upgrade in kind of its overall function, then I think that's a pretty solid pick.
Yeah, and like, you know, they added Franklin and whatnot, but like they didn't add anyone who plays his role, right?
No, and I mean, like Franklin, I like Franklin. I was really surprised to see him fall to the fourth, but like, he's not really like a target earner type of dude. He's a downfield field stretcher. That's what Mims is. So you have his role, Sutton's role might be like being the one who gets targeted.
Right. As well. Yeah. We're gonna have some decisions up here, guys. Yeah. Eckler goes. There goes our stacking partner.
So if we wanted Goff, we at least have that option to get the second one with.
We could go Goddard.
I don't mind Goddard either if we don't want to do this in it.
Do we want to light on for Senate, or do we want to do Dallas Goddard?
We could also let's do Goff. Let's do Goff.
Okay.
This does lock us into 2 QBs, and now we still have the option for 3 tight ends if we wanted to do the Senate and someone else too.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like it. So you guys from just like get inside your heads for a second here. We spent draft capital on 2 quarterbacks inside of QB 15, inside of pick 115. That just solidifies like we're never going to add a third to this.
I don't think we need to, because Daniel's like his whole play is that he's going to run a bunch. So it's like a fairly high floor, hits your lineup a fair amount. And then Goff is like that spike week dude. You know, it doesn't seem like he's a spike week dude, but he kind of is. Whereas pocket passer, and you know, he just goes off a couple times, gets us through a single week elimination round type of deal.
And it's funny, this argument may not make sense, but like last year I was making an argument that if you're drafting Anthony Richardson, you should only draft one other QB because we're playing for the best case scenarios. And like, while that made sense for what we expect, like what we actually saw the first 4 weeks, ended up being bad because he got hurt, but like it is what it is. But I think like Jaden Daniels is kind of similar, where it's like, hey, if Jaden Daniels kind of has the success, like it's better off not to, you know, waste that third QB spot, at least on a 18 round draft. Also, I tried to post the link in the comments, but I guess Google Docs can't be posted. So I put it in your private chat. Either could put it there or put it in your Discord or something for people for the pronunciation.
Yeah, I just shared it in the chat for everybody. So Thank you for doing so. And I'm going to put that in the Discord and pin it for myself. So I actually learned this shit.
I will add one thing. They are wrong on one thing. Xavier Leggett is not correct. He corrected people. It is Xavier Leggett.
Leggett, like Lee. Mm-hmm. Good to know. Thank you. This actually just
Rashee Shaheed, by the way, another guy in this range. That dude is underpriced.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's a good example where I don't know if it's like I think it's a continued edge in best ball that wide receivers that have QBs drafted after them are often good values because they're not getting pulled up as stack partners. Mm-hmm. And Cortland Sutton's a good example there as well. But I think Rashee Shaheed is a perfect example where if Derek Carr, for whatever reason, was being drafted in the 10th round, Rashid Shaheed would be like earlier too, or maybe
he would go right like around. If he's going late 10, he would just go early 11. They would just stack it every time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he just early 11 here, but
that's a really good call.
9th or whatever, but yeah.
Decisions coming our way. We could do Dotson for the stacking. We could do Jacoby with the Vegas stuff, but without quarterback that we've built out. Joshua Palmer, because we all love Joshua Palmer, I assume.
I kind of like the Jacoby move, to be honest. We're betting on this offense. We don't have, like, who gives a shit if we don't have Minshew? We're covering Minshew with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. Herzig?
Good with that. Yep.
Yeah. You didn't seem too enthused.
No, I was just thinking through. Like, I mean, Dotson instinctively made the most sense because, like, the stack, but, like, also I think there's enough of an ADP change there for you to go Jacoby first. You might get Dotson later. From a running back standpoint, we are right at that tier drop. But, like, to be honest, in my mind, we actually passed the tier drop. Where, like, if we had that 120s guys, I like those a lot better. Right now, it really starts getting ugly at running backs. Which is
plus,
fine.
what did Zamir give us the ability to do? And it's now push it. Right. Like, and so, you know, if you're not taking the JSN there, going ahead and grabbing Jacoby, who's, I mean, kind of JSN-esque, and then it allows you to get that flexibility at running back. By the way, I think your point on Richardson is like 100% correct. Like your 3 quarterback Richardson teams are also kind of dead. Like, it's not you need to be thinking, like, you know, obviously the draft like you're right type of mentality, but like, if Richardson didn't get hurt, you're going to be so pissed at yourself that you drafted that 3rd quarterback, especially once he moved up. Like when he was going 18th round the big board or whatever, draft 3 quarterback, doesn't matter. Right. But like if you're taking him in the 7th round, the 8th round, taking that 3rd quarterback when it works out with Richardson, you're going to be so pissed that you wasted that draft capital. You flip over a week 17 lineup and it's got 3 quarterbacks and you know Richardson's going to go for like 25. You're like, what the fuck was I thinking? Versus you might save a couple Richardson teams after he gets hurt for the whole season with the 3rd quarterback, and they're still probably not going to win it anyway.
Yep, completely agree.
Really good. I got to ask you guys the 2v2 that we were talking about, Hopkins and or Christian Watson instead of Zamir, and then we take Blake Corum here, or do you guys prefer the Zamir White plus Jacoby one?
I think it would have been Chase Brown instead of Jared Goff. So like Chase Brown at that 117 and then a wide receiver 4. And I really like Chase Brown. I think I'd be happy with Tajay, Gus. Yeah. But I think for me, that Blake Corum is on a other side of that drop from where Gus and Tajay. So
I agree. Yeah, I want what we have over the Corum one, but you can talk me into for sure into Chase Brown, and then where do we end up at quarterback? So it gets it's like a 3v3 versus
Cousins. We probably would have gone at 126 if Goff isn't there.
Okay. Yeah, and I probably like that better. I probably like Cousins.
He went 135.
Yeah. Cousins, Chase Brown, and JSN. Is that the 3v3?
Yeah.
Dotson, there's one pick in front of us.
Oh, that okay, Ford. Now Jerome Ford and Rico Dowdle. Like, I think that's probably like a good spot for us to grab a running back.
We kind of, I think, probably want to go Dowdle just for the bigger swing. Like, we don't need early season running back.
I 100% agree with Dowdle.
Nice. Okay, cool.
I think Jerome Ford is going to have minimal value. Jerome Ford kind of had the nut run out like last year with the Chubb situation and still wasn't able to capitalize too much on it.
That good. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I think Jerome Ford is going to have good weeks like early on, but like, it's still not great weeks. And then
you better need them.
And at the end of the season, what do you?
Yeah. If you don't need, like, we have Kamara, like Kamara's like this whole running back room is like early weeks. Like our week 2 running back projection is going to be like sweet. But the problem is like all of these guys could suck at the end of the season. So adding Jerome Ford on is kind of silly, I think. Whereas Dowdle,
that's a good point.
You know, Dowdle could be the guy maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and I think better chance Dowdle's the guy at the end of the season than the beginning.
Right. Yeah.
2, 5, 8, 3. Is that how we're feeling?
that's where my mind goes. But I got to ask about the tight end. When you take Pitts and you spend 5th round on him, do you guys still like 3 tight end build?
I'm fine.
I'm okay with it if I'm not getting one of those guys that Kerrane was talking about earlier with the Schultz, Ferguson, Goddard, like, yeah, and then I'm just waiting so long.
Okay. 2 things I thought of while we're sitting here. Jalen Wright, some big discrepancy between ETR and LegUp on Jalen Wright, about 40 picks. It was one of the biggest ones that I saw. Maybe we could talk through that a little bit. And then the other one I would bring up is talking about tight ends leads my mind straight to Dan Zach, and anything on the docket for you, Herzig, where you're going to run something back, season-long bet-wise with him, with anybody else. Just what's going on there?
So for the first, actually, can we Benson it in the queue just to keep that in mind? Because don't want to forget that. I think that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, I was so high on Jalen Wright early on. Obviously, like, his contingency upside is probably some of the best in the league, but that is so hard to project when you're like the 3rd running back and like not the best draft capital. I think we should probably be pretty higher, be a bit higher on it. Maybe that's something I'll bring up to the team after this. But like, I think when I'm comparing him to Rico Dowdle, there's no choice that it's Dowdle in my mind.
Yeah, we've got Dowdle well ahead of Jalen Wright as well. I'm with you there. I definitely, the thing with Wright is that you're betting on the backfield being really kind of fertile ground for running back production. That's the bet with Jalen Wright.
And him getting touches.
Yeah, and him getting touches. But like, why are we? Or do you want to just grab Sanaa here?
Yeah, are we all in lockstep?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense, especially after missing out on Dotson.
For sure. Obviously he needs to get touches and everything. And like, I don't know if he will. Right? He's like, they don't have a ton of draft capital behind him. He's very much a 2-down prospect. I was very skeptical of the idea that he would like catch passes at the NFL level. But this is the spot where like, if you've got a 2-down explosion back, like you want him to be in a Mike McDaniel offense. And then like he's behind a running back in his 30s with the knee issues and like the smallest starter in the league. So like, seems like the paths to touches are not hard to imagine. And it's just like, kind of like, I want Miami running backs. I want Achane. Mostert, I'm having a little bit more trouble drafting. I wish he was a little cheaper, but if he was going, a little bit later, I'd be drafting him a fair amount. And then Jalen Wright, I think, is like reasonably priced for kind of the range of outcomes. And he's an explosive downhill runner with speed in a Mike McDaniel offense. Pretty easy to see how that pays off, especially at the end of the season. So just kind of a bet on like archetype and the offense.
If anything happened to Mostert, do either of these 2 guys become the goal line back? Because like that was a rich role last year. Or did they go by way of Savon Ahmed again or Jeff Wilson or something like that and use kind of like the more disposable, for lack of a better word, bigger body guy at the goal line?
I think one of them would, but
Wright is, I think, that guy. I mean, that's part of the bet with him. He's 210. He's pretty.
He's the Mostert replacement, right?
Guy. Yeah. He's the Mostert replacement.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think one of your outs here is that like they just kind of rotate these guys. Like Wright is showing he's explosive and he has a little. He gets in there sometimes and can rip off some big plays, or gets in there occasionally at the goal line. And this is like, in these scenarios, Achane is probably a pretty bad pick in the 2nd round because they're just like rotating through, and you don't want to have spent a 2nd round pick on one of these dudes. But you might be pretty happy with spending a pick in the 140s.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Miami has the 2008 Al Davis wet dream of an offense with how much effing speed they have.
They do.
Like, dude, that's such a nightmare to game plan against. Like, they literally have potentially 5 of the top, 10, 15 fastest players in the league on the same offense.
Can you go to players available?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
Honestly, is it Luke McCaffrey time?
I was just about to suggest him too.
He's not different than like anyone else available, and it gets us a double.
Are you good with it, Herzig?
Yeah, I don't even know what his AP is. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, and this is just a kind of stacking conversation. Like, yeah, you could wait on him, but the 2v2 that you're waiting on is not worth it this late in the draft. Take your guy, get your stack partner. Yeah.
I like it. What are your guys' thoughts? Just like, because the other name that keeps rising up boards and people keep pushing up, Jermaine Burton obviously got more draft capital than a lot of people are anticipating. Could have been a first rounder just from a raw talent standpoint, but he's bounced around 6 schools and in 4 years or something insane like that. But he keeps winding up at good schools. Most recently with Alabama. What are you guys' thoughts just in general? Is this a palatable price for him? Is it someone you guys want?
He was my highest drafted player in the big board. I think the talent really isn't in question with him. It's the reasons that he was at. I think Dane Brugler had it. It was like some crazy thing. He was at like 6 different schools over the last 4 years or something. Like it was kind of wild. Those numbers were probably wrong, but it was too many schools in a short period of time.
Way too many.
Yeah. Actually, Jalen Moore was my highest drafted player, but Burton tied with Tez Walker as my highest drafted wide receiver in the big board.
Where was he going in the big board? Like 18th round every single time?
He started off 20th round.
20th round.
Early on, I was getting him 20th.
Wow. Yeah, and then he came up. You would have to take him at the end in like the 17th round, but he like flipped Javon Baker, but he never really. I think he eventually flipped Tez Walker, but he never got expensive. And I don't know, they have TJ Hushmanzada is kind of like assigned as kind of his mentor there. They seem to have a plan in place for kind of getting him as part of the program and everything. And yeah, I mean, like it's like Joe Burrow's outside deep threat. That's kind of what the idea is. Now, what's his route participation? Because obviously Chase and Higgins play outside. So is he kind of rotational? That's annoying. But like, I don't know, is he like he might be running similar route rate to Jameson Williams, and you're getting him with Burrow instead of Goff.
Right.
I think we don't see him in the Tyler Boyd role, which some people are just assuming, wide receiver 3.
Definitely not.
I think we're not going to see T. Higgins traded this year. And so I think there's that baked in. So like I think his price is more expensive than it should be. But that said, like I don't really care about price this late in drafts. It's funny. I actually ended up with not that much Jermaine Burton because I was like, okay, I'm drafting him in the 20th and 19th because I think this is going to be a unique player. Then he's now getting drafted in every draft. I'm like, well, now I'm just going to go pick some other guy like Johnny Wilson or something. And that obviously didn't work out. But like from a strategy aspect, it was interesting. All right. We are here.
What about Juwan Johnson?
Yeah, we got Kamara on there. Bakes in a little bit there.
I'm okay with it. I'm good with it. Give me that argument versus Likely. But let's go Juwan. But I'm just curious to your take on this.
Juwan Johnson's a starting tight end.
Isaiah Likely has a QB.
Well, we already bet on this quarterback to power running back.
Juwan Johnson's one of 3 tight. No, I guess now it's 2 tight ends. Jimmy Graham's not there anymore.
Jimmy Graham's not there. Jimmy Graham scored what was his line? He had like 4 touchdowns on 6 targets. I think it helps a little that Jimmy Graham's gone.
I agree. No, I like Juwan Johnson. ETR likes him a lot too. I just personally find myself between those 2 guys a lot.
4 touchdowns last year on 7 targets. So that was Jimmy Graham's line. 7 targets, 6 receptions, 39 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think it's not nothing that he's gone.
Yeah.
And like
also new offensive coordinator. That maybe this is like kind of a undercover thing. I think not that the Saints are going to be like, oh my God, draft the Saints and that's how you win. Like, but I think they could be like a useful team to have because they've got Clint Kubiak as their offensive coordinator. They should be like entering the modern era of football now, doing a little bit, outside of Taysom Hill gimmick plays, like doing some interesting stuff. And so, I mean, the tight end is usually a big part of those systems as well. So anyway, I think Juwan Johnson, especially if you're already betting on the Saints to some extent, like we are, I like him a lot.
Derek Carr is way too cheap too.
He's very cheap.
You don't have the upside, but like you're also getting a QB that can throw a decent amount in a dome, and we're not expecting to actually have a great run game. Their defense is pretty bad, so they're going to be playing from behind. But
his top 2 wide receivers are deep threats. Like this, it's pretty fun. Like I don't know.
Wait,
For the
his
price.
top 3 wide receivers are deep threats. A.T. Perry, like that is literally a deep threat too.
There you go.
Wake
And now
Forest
Juwan
State.
Johnson. This is actually going back to
Yeah.
Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson and Kamara just getting tons of targets
Just
underneath.
Yeah.
Too funny. Okay. We're gonna be able to finish this draft, but if I might have to jump out at the last minute to go prep for the other. But I want to answer your question. No, I have not heard anything from Dan Zach. He left last year saying I shouldn't have signed up to play against the person who finished with the number 1 expected like teams or whatever for the finals. But like
seems like
I mean, bad idea.
If you're gonna make a bet like that, I respect him for going at like the king. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna make a bet like that and you got the bankroll to make a bet like that, at least he went like Dragon Slayer mode and he was like, I'm going straight to the top here. Like if he made that bet with me and like he beats me, like nobody gives a fuck, right? But if he goes for you and he beats you, then now all of a sudden he's like made a little bit of a name for himself, right?
Yeah. No, I like to think he had $50,000 to lose. I had a lot more to lose, and thankfully I didn't. But yeah,
absolutely.
He had nothing to lose. Like beyond that, like he had nothing to lose going at it, and yeah, great guy. Really like him. Yeah,
good poker.
Yeah, I bet you really like him.
We'll do like a heads up or whatever poker, and you can definitely take it back from me there.
There you go. We are coming up here. Structurally, we're kind of all in lockstep here. We got the 3 tight ends locked up. We're done at quarterback most likely, and then kind of 5 running back build.
Yep.
Okay. Baker, Walker.
Can we see running backs real quick just to know, or like it's really ugly, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, may as well grab a wide receiver we like. Mims would probably be my
Mims would be my guy too.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to talk through these running backs though? Late round. What are we thinking?
I still am drafting Elijah Mitchell. I think he probably is the number 2 guy there. But not a priority at this point.
Yep. Normally from a structure wise, like I have my running backs by this time. Because I'm loading like 5 or 6 in that middle area.
That's how I normally do it too. I finish up. Yeah.
Now,
like Dowdle's a perfect guy to finish with.
Yeah. Come July, August. So for me finishing, I often end up with like a Bucky Irving or maybe a Kamani or maybe like a Herbert as like that final one.
Yep.
And maybe that's because I've got a little more of the wide receivers early. But yeah, come July, August, that's when I will be heavily in these streets, 18th round running backs, specifically using that ownership that we're putting together to say like, hey, these guys haven't been drafted. We have more confidence that Shipley's actually the number 2 behind Saquon, or that, I don't know, any of these guys, like when we actually know who the 2 is, that's when I'm more likely to kind of draft them in that 18th. Plus knowing, and I think, Leone mentioned this when you guys were on, why I don't try to get unique this early in the season, because if I'm right, well, that guy's going to get drafted and I lost the uniqueness. If I'm wrong, well, then it's a bad pick because he's not anywhere near the conversation.
Yeah, you're trying to win earlier in the draft. Like the reason to draft now is because you're getting guys in the 9th, 10th, and 11th that are going to go in the 5th, 6th, and 7th. That's where you win in these. Here, we're just trying not to screw it up. So as a guy like Elijah Mitchell has some appeal because I'm like, I think everyone's freaking out about the Garendo pick, but like he held off Mason with like no problem last year. Like I think it's probably more that like Mitchell's out after the year. They probably don't re-sign him. And then McCaffrey, what's the plan after that? Like and we're the 49ers. We always kind of want to have running backs coming in. That's how I'm looking at that. But
yes. Yeah. And Mitchell is a UFA next year. So like I saw it the same way is he hasn't stayed healthy. Like he's been too much of a risk. They're always willing to kind of throw that running back pick out there and try to develop.
Plus, and a pure contingent value swing actually does make a decent amount of sense on this team. Because that's what we want late.
I got a pick
safety
right here that I'm gonna.
We have safety. Yeah.
I had a pick right here that I'm gonna throw it to you guys and see, but I don't want to mush it just in case.
Hit us.
What do you guys think about Zay Jones right here?
Okay. I probably would have done that on the 18th because nobody else wants to touch him.
Yeah.
But like, I think I put a tweet out, but like you're going Buffalo. No, not Buffalo. It was Dallas, Kansas City, and 2 others, and like 3 of those were actually really good landing spots. Just the fact that he's getting all those visits from like strong click Elijah, you're running out of time.
What is going on? What did you?
Oh no,
Damian
we got
Pierce.
Pierce. Oh no.
I saw you hovering over the star. Why didn't you press the button?
Because I was like typing something and I was listening to Herzig at the same time. Guys, I'm not Pete out here. These fingers are slow.
Clearly not Pete. Pete would never.
Oh,
hey,
man.
you know what?
Hey,
listen. John, he's thinking ahead. His fingers are doing all the thinking here for us because we have Tank Dell. Okay,
Dameon Pierce isn't the worst.
Dameon Pierce. We're betting on Houston, baby. We're betting on Houston. Late season. Dameon Pierce comes back and they're forced to play him. Now the problem is that they bench him again. But before that, in week 15, he scores a touchdown and then he helps us get through it.
I mean, to be fair, them benching him would just be the first step to them cutting him, and then maybe.
Yeah,
like,
no, he's off the team by week 17.
Right.
He gets us a playoff win.
And like it's unfortunate because like he is actually like from a scheme much better fit with the Chargers, but like they also have no one behind him and he's on such a cheap rookie deal. Like they're not going to just get rid of him. Even though like by all signs they really, really don't like him in Houston.
No, they do not.
I'm looking at their depth chart right now. I mean, yeah, they can't afford to get rid of him anyways, because there was that one little rumor that Cowboys were interested as trade partner, but that just feels like anyone and everyone was pushing any running back who might be on an expiring 5th-year option style deal to the Cowboys.
It's nice to the Cowboys. We all want the running back to the Cowboys so bad that we're like doing the legwork for them. Like people are calling up the Steelers being like, Najee the Cowboys, let us take.
I've been trying to cut Miles.
Samaje Perine and Khalil Herbert. Those are the 2, I think, legitimate trade candidates when you look at what their actual contracts are, who are the other people on that Denver team. Like both of them have legit 3 running backs. Chicago still has Travis Homer. You're welcome, Sam. Like,
I love that. Yeah, I mean, like I was trying to wish cast the Miles Sanders one. I mean, even after they brought in Penny, but they saved no money in doing it, right? Like I looked at it with Gretsch the other day, and it was like his contract's $8 million, and they saved 200,000 of it by cutting him before June 1. And it's like, yeah, well, you're not going to do that and just eat it all. Just keep him on the roster.
And Denver, you have Javonte, you have Jaleel, you have Audric. Like it makes sense that Samaje could.
I think Audric was sneaky good for the other guys ahead of him because Perine catches passes, and he might now be elsewhere because they drafted this 2-down guy.
Do we have a wide receiver we like here, or did you guys like my Zay suggestion?
Yeah, I'm good with Zay.
Zay's fine.
Also, Zay, I think one of the teams he visited was Detroit. So
there we go. Now we're
luck into that stack.
There we go. Yeah. Actually, it's funny.
Definitely not a bad time for Jameson Williams that Zay Jones is visiting. Just saying.
Yeah, no doubt, right? I mean, if you can't keep Josh Reynolds, you may as well bring in Josh Reynolds 2.0, right?
I mean,
definitely not a red flag. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, who was it? Cedric? Who was the Brown that they traded for?
DPJ.
It was DPJ.
Oh yeah, Donovan.
Yeah.
I mean, they've tried to cover up that Band-Aid so many times with so many different bodies. It was funny because we did Gretchen and I did one on last Thursday, and we took Mahomes at 5. He fell all the way back to 5 on the right-hand side of the board. And we were like, oh, one of Worthy or Marquise Brown will make it through these next 6 picks, come back to stack. He doesn't. So we end up with naked Mahomes until the last round, and we're literally scratching our heads. Kadarius, Tony, Sky Moore. We can't do this again, can we? And we just were like, fucking Zay Jones might sign there, and just took Zay Jones.
The answer, unfortunately, is CEH. That's how you play. That's what Pete and I did on Monday. We got boxed out. We needed an extra running back. I think we had 4 at that point, and we're like, screw it. CEH.
Also, naked Mahomes, not the worst from a QB perspective, with what we're expecting that offense to be a bit more spread out and still getting some work on the ground.
Fair.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, go ahead, name this one up. Get your guys EV in here. Free roll on John.
Yeah, I think it should be named after Dameon Pierce, since he's clearly the league winner.
Dameon Pierce. Oops. All right. John, Pat, always fun draft with you guys, hanging out. I got to go set up. Yeah, either go watch Ship Chasing after this or watch us draft on the ETR and do the other one later.
Watch both. You know, YouTube, it keeps the videos up after. So check out both streams. We'll see you there.
Yeah, absolutely. See you, Herzig. Thank you so much. Quadzilla just dropped something in the chat that he's like, this is crazy right now. We're May 9th at, noon on the West Coast here. And there was four or five best ball streams live right now. Like, it's so cool to see this industry emerge this way.
It is. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, there's just like the amount of tournaments that are live right now alone is kind of nuts. How are you playing what are you jumping into right now in terms of these Underdog tournaments?
We did the Golden all together as the single entry the other day. I probably will not do a ton of puppies, admittedly. I will probably be trying to just make sure I max BBM this year, but I will try and do, at least 10 to 25 puppies of each of them when they go. I mean, I play so much of the daily stuff too, that like for me, ripping a couple puppies at the, before I go to bed or sitting on the couch, it doesn't really like jump to me in the same capacity as like, hey, let me just rip 3 baseball drafts for tomorrow.
Okay.
Like I really like that as my like just leisure drafting time for it to be tomorrow. So I will have to be like, I'll have to make a concerted effort to make sure I get all BBM, but I will definitely start mixing in some slows as soon as the schedule comes out. But everything for BBM has been fast so far, and Mini Schnauzer has basically all been slows except for the 7 that are completed there.
Nice. Yeah, I really like the fast for BBM. It just, to me, and I have trouble with the puppies too, because to me, I'm like, if it's fast, I want to be like in the zone and like really thinking through it. And BBM, I never have trouble getting there, but puppies I do. I hate multi-tabling. So I'm probably going to add like a bunch of puppy slows once some of these mini schnauzers get closer to finishing up. So I think I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like just from like a volume standpoint, like Pete was talking about it. He wrote an article on it. If you guys haven't seen it on Fantasy Life, but he was talking about it on the show yesterday. And it's like from a mathematical standpoint, like if you're not maxing these stuff and giving yourself like at least an opportunity, like to make a BBM final is like 1 in every 6 years, or to make a puppy final 1 in every whatever. So it's like for someone who does this for a living, you have a site, you have a whatever, like even if you miss a couple picks here and there, or you push the plane here and there, you just want to make sure you get those bullets in there.
It is a volume game. It's highly variant. Just getting the volume in. Like last year I made 5 finals on Underdog, but I drafted, I don't know if I would hit 1,000 teams, but I drafted a lot of teams last year. And I drafted 710 teams on Underdog last year. Made 5 finals. So
I mean, I love that you share that with people, because that really puts it in perspective. It's like, yes, Kerrane's a very sharp player. Yes, he won BBM in the past. Yes, he's got a website. Here's one of the best players who is most tapped in, and he had 710 bullets and he got 5 through. Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, I was happy. Like that's great. Like and fortunately I did decently well in the finals that I made. But that's just like the game we're playing, like you're like, let's see, I had semifinals. I had 32 teams in the semifinals, but it's just like, so it's just like waves of decimation. That's the way this works. Like you draft, it's like 2 out of 12 on average are going to get, and especially if you're focusing on advance rate, having a good advance rate, but that's not your priority. You're not spending all of your skill on advancing. Well, then you're not going to have most likely an amazing advance rate. So, maybe you got a 20% advance rate, 25% advance rate or something. That'd be great. But that's a fourth of your teams are getting 3/4 of your teams are just getting wiped off the map. And then, I mean, it's chaos. It's chaos when you get to rounds where you're like less than 1 out of 10 teams, 1 out of 16 teams getting through. Like, it's just the game we're playing. So I think, volume is just such an important part of it. If you can get down, your bankroll, obviously bankroll management is critical, but like if you have a chance to like fire a bunch of bullets in the smaller tournaments versus like 1 or 2 bigger bullets, I mean, I would lean towards myself firing the the larger amount of bullets in the smaller stakes tournaments.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. The shots on goal is just so important, right? I mean, we can only be so right, and even when we're right, sometimes it doesn't matter. Like just ask Easy
Yeah.
from last year, right?
Right.
It's like he's so effing right with all his advance rates, and then it doesn't end up mattering in the capacity in which mathematically probably should have.
Right. Right, because that's the way. I mean, there's a lot of part of the fun of this is that there's a lot of randomness built in. Like there's like even with the pod luck and all that stuff. Like you're like hoping you get a good pod. Like is there any skill to that? Nope. There's no skill. Like there's a lot of skill overall, but like mixed in with that is just like the balls are all bouncing weird ways, and you're hoping that works out for you too. So
yeah. We talked about it for like a brief second yesterday. There, it's like. Coming from the poker side of that, like I understand that in a big way. It's like I played for a living as a sponsored pro for like 12 plus years, right? And then when it comes to like live tournament success at the World Series of Poker with $10,000 on the line, I never cashed. I never cashed the main event one time in my life. I played the main event, 10 plus times, never even cashed, let alone, right? And it's like, well, maybe he's not very good at poker. It's like, well, no, it's just one isolated tournaments that, yeah. Anyways, I don't want to.
It's 12:01. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heading over to ship chasing.
I was trying to say,
jump over to ship chasing. I'll see you guys there.
Right there. Yeah. All right. All right. I'll run down this team. Bye, Pat.
Right,
Thank you, man. All right. For the audio listeners who have hung out all this whole time, before you guys all jump ship over to ETR and/or ship chasing, appreciate you guys so much. Hit that like, that subscribe. Michigan, welcome to Underdog Fantasy. Love it so much. A 2-5-8-3 alongside two former champs, Jaden Daniels, Jared Goff, Alvin Kamara, Zamir White, DeAndre Swift, Rico Dowdle, the Damian Pierce pick that was all my fault, but not the worst thing in the world. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, Tank Dell, Jacoby Myers, Luke McCaffrey, Marvin Mims, Zay Jones, please sign with Detroit, Kyle Pitts, Ben Sinnott, not confused with Ben Sinnott, Jawan Johnson. Really fun team there. Drop something in the comments. You like it, you hate it. If you guys think we're donks or you guys think we're sharps. Appreciate you guys so much. Yeah, GM from Michigan. Love it. Nez. Where's Nez at, man? Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Go check out those other shows. I probably won't be back today after we just round 2 hours, but maybe I'll do something paywall upcoming. Not tomorrow. I'm playing golf and then going to the hockey game. Otherwise, Nez will be back on Monday. Appreciate you guys so much. Good luck in the basketball streets tonight. Good luck in the baseball streets. And no, I'm sorry. I am not redirecting. That is something I will look into in the future. Pete usually does it one way. I can't do it the other way. Anyways, ship chasing starting without you. So good. All right. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Everybody's favorite time of the show. The end. Peace. Love you guys.